Okay, so next up is Civil War. Again, here is a warning. This is going to be a spoiler discussion between Eric Holmes and Bruce Purkey. Bruce Purkey, I thought you saw this. Did you see it with one of your sons, Civil War? Just go ahead and review spoilers with Eric. I'm going to be out of here in 3, 2, 1. Boom.
Yeah, I saw this with my oldest son on Saturday, and yeah, we haven't talked. I don't think we reviewed this at all, but it's directed by Alex Garland, obviously famously from Annihilation and Men, and written a bunch of things as well, Dread and a bunch of stuff. Sunshine, I think, if I remember correctly. This is obviously supposedly his version of a new American Civil War in the not so, I guess, not so far away from us future. I guess it doesn't really give us a date on when this is supposed to take place, and you're already well in it at this point. Stars Kirsten Dunst as kind of the seasoned photojournalist, war photographer. Her, I guess, journalist friend, played by, I don't know how to say his name, Wagner Mora? Wagner Mora?
Yeah, Wagner Mora. Do you remember Wagner Mora from anything?
I never watched that show.
No, 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 but no. Did you watch something else
I don't know, maybe.
recently, within a month ago?
Sure,
Bruce Purkey?
probably.
Bruce Purkey.
What was he in?
Come on. It's one of
I
your
don't-
all-time favorite movies, Bruce Purkey. I can't believe I'm submarining the Civil War review.
You got to remember, I don't remember names
Oh.
of actors.
I know.
Yes, Eric, go for it.
The Gray Man.
Oh, no, Eric. He was the star of a movie that both you and Bruce loved. Our last Patreon episode, you guys were singing the praises of a movie called Elite Squad. I think
Oh, he was in Elite Squad? That was him?
that's the guy. That's the guy. I'm sorry, Bruce.
Oh,
Yeah. Go
Okay.
ahead, Bruce.
I thought you were talking about a recent one.
Yeah, you guys loved that movie so much. All right, Bruce, go ahead.
And you got a young, up and coming, I guess, wannabe war journalist played by Cailee Spaeney, named Jesse is her character. You have Nick Offerman in here as the president, who's kind of, I guess, become a dictator of sorts, and Stephen McKinley Henderson and other famous people in this movie. So what is the basic concept of this? Essentially, it is the United States has been divided into a couple factions. One faction is supposedly called the Western Forces. That's Texas and California territories have combined and are trying to take down the dictator version of America. And that's about all they tell us. And essentially, we're following these photojournalists as they travel from, where do they start out? Philadelphia, New York? I forget. New York, I think. And they're working their way down to Washington, D.C., try to get there before it falls, because they know that the Western forces will probably kill the president, and they want to have a chance to quickly interview and photograph the president before that happens. So it's more a road movie in the war setting than it is a war movie. And that's the basic setup of it. I'll just give you my real quick reaction to it and then get Eric's reaction to it. Then we can get into some of the spoilers. I would say I started out a little disappointed with this movie when I saw it, although it's technically pretty darn well made and full of a lot of tension and a lot of interesting moments. Most of those kind of movies, when that happens, they kind of go up a little bit with time, but after a week, I say continues to go down for me in my estimation of it. I think I'm more and more disappointed as time goes on.
Eric, what's your take?
Yeah, it's decent, I guess. Well, first half is not much going on. Second half, pretty much oh crap, what's his name? A guy from Breaking Bad.
Breaking Bad, Bryan Cranston, Aaron Sanford, what?
No, Jesus, I can't remember the name.
Okay,
My brain sucks.
Nick Offerman. I don't know. Was he in Breaking Bad?
Mr. Kirsten Dunst.
Yeah.
Oh, Jesse Plemons.
Jesus.
Jesse Plemons.
Couldn't remember Alex Cox. Can't remember Jesse Plemons.
Yeah.
Jeez, what's wrong with me? Yeah, once Jesse Plemons shows up, thought it got pretty good. Pretty good kind of war movie, I guess. Political thriller, if you want to call it that. I wouldn't. I think one of the things they were trying was, since we're following journalists, maybe the movie's trying to stay as neutral as the journalists should. So you can maybe figure out your own, like, here's what's happening, come to your own conclusions, that sort of thing. The problem with that is that since the movie has no point of view, there's nothing in the movie to have a point of view about. It's just bullets flying on both sides, a bunch of like that siege towards the end was, we're in spoilers, right? We can talk about
Just
things.
spoiler review. Go for it. Yeah.
Okay. Siege on the White House, like that whole battle scene, bit with Jesse Plemons is like thrilling to watch. There's nothing to have an opinion on because the movie doesn't really tell you, it doesn't give you any context for anything. I think part of being a journalist is to say, and if this is indeed what the point is, like we're gonna go at this in a neutral position. This is also a farce. It's fiction, so you need to give us something, some backstory as to what's going on. You need to, if you're going to have the journalists there, it would be interesting if they saw different sides doing different things, and they kind of do, but it's in a strange context that you don't really get much to latch onto, really.
Yep.
This is like, so Don't Look Up, as much as I love that movie, got hit on for being too obvious. I think this is way too vague. It has no teeth. It's not saying anything really. And if it is, it went right over my head because I didn't pick up on any of it. I just think, but based on looking at it just an action movie, the last half is really good. Loved it a lot. Love Nick Offerman as the slimy president, even though he's only in it for a bit. Love Jesse Plemons, even though he's in it for a very short period of time, but that scene is tense as hell. But like as an overall movie, or at least the movie that I think most people were expecting to see, it's not much there.
Eric, what's your rating on Civil War?
Oh, geez. I'm probably gonna have to go Cinema Paradiso. 2.5.
2.5 on 2.5.
Except I really like the second half of this. The first half was kind of, and
2.5
Thufir
for your-
Hallwood's in it, so that was cool too.
Bruce, what's your rating?
First of all, I would just say I want to really quickly jump in and just say there is no reason this is set in America. That's one thing that threw me away. Like, if kind of to piggyback on Eric, if you're going to make a movie about the American Civil War, you got to tell us what happened in this America. It doesn't have to be the America we're in now, but you have to tell us what the two sides are about. So at least you know who you are rooting for or why things are happening. Like he said, with the journalists, we don't even know what the journalists are expecting to see from the different sides. If they're expecting to see one side be just and one side be terrible, or what they're expecting to see, so we have no context. So I agree totally. I think 2.5 is the score for this, because even though it's an okay action movie, for Garland to make this movie about an American Civil War is absolutely toothless.
Ruthless. Wow. Bruce, what, very quickly, spoilers you wanted to hit on as far as this movie, as far as talking Civil War?
I mean, really, spoiler wise, I don't think there's much to spoil other than, okay, there's this whole thing about they telegraph the fate of the Kirsten Dunst character. So I think we're supposed to think like, oh my gosh, this young, bright-eyed young girl is becoming hardened to the point that she'll photograph the death of her mentor by the end of the movie. But
Right.
it's done in such a corny way that
I actually kind of liked how that played. I've heard similar complaints about that, but that scene kind of worked for me.
I mean, in the most basic way, but you knew that's what was coming. You knew
Yeah.
that. I mean, they made it very obvious. And thematically, it didn't make sense to me because, once again, I didn't know what we were supposed to think that the photojournalists were really doing.
So
You know what I mean? Like,
from a thematic standpoint, I saw that as the idea that we're supposed to be there to observe and report, right?
Yeah.
We're like mall security, but in a war zone, and we're taking pictures. At the beginning of the movie, she's like, oh, I was so freaked out, I didn't even take a picture. At the end, now she's her mentor, her friend, family or whatever, and she's so hardened at this point, and she's able to take the pictures as she's dying. So that's kind of her character arc, or her
I
growth
agree.
into.
That's Kristen
So
Dunst's character arc? Whose character arc?
No,
is that?
Cailee Spaeney's.
So
yeah,
Cailee
there
Spaeney
you
dies
go.
at the end?
No, she
No.
photographs Kirsten Dunst dying.
Kirsten
Dunst.
Dunst gets shot in front of her, and she's taking pictures of her as she's getting shot. And then Kirsten Dunst falls dead next to her,
very
and
cool.
she's still taking pictures.
Oh, that's
And she's
good.
just doing it because at this point she's been so just numb to everything that's going on that
Oh.
now she's a photojournalist. She can just kind of look.
Oh,
Her filter is the camera at that point.
See,
Okay.
to me, that's such a minor arc to have happen. Like,
It
like,
is,
okay.
but I mean that's kind of all this movie has.
See, and this is perfect. I'm going to give you a perfect example, and I mentioned this in one of the threads. Here would have been more interesting, right? So they end up being embedded with the Western forces. Western forces are going in there. Now, first of all, I was like, are the Western forces supposed to be the, quote, good guys? If they are, then you would expect that they would not want to be filmed doing atrocities, but they essentially are proudly doing atrocities in front of the photojournalists. So the only other interesting arc I could have seen if they would have done a better job of explaining where both sides are coming from is the disillusionment of the photojournalists. But by the end, they discover like, oh my gosh, we're not objectively filming things. We're just a tool of propaganda. Like if they would have figured out at the end that they were just...
That would have been sweet.
Because it would have made total sense, because essentially the final shot is them doing a trophy shot for the Western forces as they've killed. Am I wrong? That's exactly what they show us.
I thought that part was pretty funny.
Yeah. So the fact that they're doing that should have been a moment. That should have been the moment where like, oh crap, I thought I was this great objective revealer of the truth, and all I am is this tool of propaganda.
Actually, that part was a great bookend, because it opens up with Nick Offerman as the president. It's like basically kind of going over his speech and practicing like, this real platitudinal kind of, we are America, we will rise above, that sort of thing. My best Nick Offerman I can do. But and then at the end, what was it like? I just need a quote from you. Don't kill me.
Yeah.
And then they're just they shoot him, and then they're like posing next to him like they just caught a giant fish or like killed a buck or something.
But you know what I mean? I think you agree with me on this part. It was so empty. It was like, we didn't know what he stood for, really. We didn't know what the other side stood for. We didn't know what anyone stood for. So it's like, okay, it was just a war movie then. It's just an action movie. Honestly, this movie made no difference compared to Independence Day. It's just...
Yeah,
the pure spectacle.
I like this more than Independence Day, though. But yeah,
I do too. But I mean, they're both basically there's blowing up national monuments to make it an effect, but it has nothing to do with the story. Really, I
think because I gave this 2.5 stars. If it was called anything else, and I went in with the expectations that this was just going to be like we're going to follow around some journalists and it's going to be a war movie, I think I would have liked this more. I think the expectations going in hurt this. So even though I gave it a 2.5, I'd probably still watch it again. I probably like it more. Like kind of like when you watch a movie and you have like high expectations, like, oh, that sucked. But then you go back like years later and it's like, that actually wasn't too bad. Why'd I hate it so much? Oh yeah, because I was going in thinking it was going to be up here and it was kind of right here.
And to your point, and then we can stop talking about it. But I mean, to your point, if it had decided to be about something else, like Not America, Civil War, and they were just about photojournalists like in the Civil War somewhere, how much you want to bet they wouldn't have been scared to make it really clear what the different sides were, so you would understand what the photojournalists are in. They literally avoided that on purpose, and it was like you're avoiding the whole like context of the story.
And it's very difficult. Go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say the fact that their main characters are journalists and we're not doing any journaling is kind of a strange choice.
Yeah, they're just literally photographing things. That's it.
Bruce, and you are a huge Garland fan from its work. And do you just felt he lost his compass, lost his way along making this movie from outside looking in?
Lost his nerve. I think I think he was afraid of how politicized this would be, which is like, well, then don't make this movie. It's like, if you're going to make a movie about the American Civil War, that is politicized at the outset. You either go for it, pick a side and let this one side hate you, or don't pick a side, or whatever. You got to give it something. But if you're not going to think, was that?
What did your son think?
He thought it was okay. I mean, he didn't go head over heels over it, but I think he was just thinking of it more as an action movie. I started thinking I might be at 3.5, 4 stars on it, but like I said, the more I thought about it, I'm like, this is not doing the job it's supposed to do. So,
the biggest sin of this movie, they didn't get Axl Rose to show up at the end and go, "What's so civil about war anyway?" Roll credits.
Yes.
All right, guys, we will see you next time here on CinemAddicts. Tell us what you think of Civil War